3.5, solving two-step equations. Key phrase is two steps, which you can see in our standard is part of our multi-step real-world problems. You're going to see that to solve equations today, there's going to be two steps. I'm going to try to use the most effective method for solving that, whether they have fractions, decimals, or integers, and they'll be positive and negative boths. And as per usual, down there, you can use a variable for unknown values in real-world mathematical problems, meaning word problems. We talked today, the hint, what we're going to do is get rid of what's added or subtracted first, so the variable term is left alone. For us, most of the time when we talk about our two steps today, we're going to have two steps. Step one, we are going to add something to both sides, like it's set up there, so that we can get the variable by itself. In step two, we either are going to multiply or we're going to divide, just like we did before. So this is our lesson 3.3 and lesson 3.4. We're going to take the last two lessons that we just did and we're going to put them together in order for us to do our two-step equations. So multiplying or dividing, step two, depends on what's happening with the variable. And if you need to make the note to yourself, remind yourself, on step two, we use the same number. We use the coefficient, the number in front of the variable. As per usual, when we're looking at this, to solve an equation, find the variable. Draw your attention to one side. Let's hope and pray the variable is on our beloved left side, and there it is. I'll try to zoom in as a circle here instead, so we can see it like that. So the 2x, you can put your thumb on it yourself or pretend like it's not there. For our focus purposes, I'm going to move my screen so you can see here. Step one, we want to get the 2x all by itself. So we're going to ignore it for a moment, and we're going to get rid of adding 12. How do we get rid of adding a positive 12? Well, we're going to add a negative 12 to both sides. Step one, we're going to add something. So it's a negative 12 to both sides. Again, why did we do that? Because these 12s cancel. You're left with 2x on the left side equals a negative 8. If you're going to use mental math, make sure you add those carefully. You have a positive $4, you owe me $12, that's why it is a negative 8 to start with. From there, again, draw your attention back to the variable. We've got this variable here. What's happening between the 2 and the x since they are touching? Since they're touching, they're timesing, so we must focus there and get rid of that. So we are going to divide both sides by 2 because it's a positive 2 in front of the x. And when you look at that, that's where x equals a negative 4 comes in. Watch your signs. Again, mental math, they do not have the same sign. That's negative number for our final answer. Now, that is what we're going to be doing today in class. We talked about step one, add. Step two, we're either going to multiply or do some dividing. However, I'd be remiss if I didn't show you one more thing that I want to or need to do. For us, a lot of times you'll see me kind of omit it. So just follow the instructions from your teacher on it. But a lot of times you'll see the instruction to solve and check. So for this one time in the notes, please write down the word check. Whenever it says to solve and check, we've already done all the work over here for solving. Everything on the left side is what we do for solving. Now for checking over here on the right, check means to write down that original problem, and then it means to plug on in. Did we get the right answer? Will our answer, our value for x over there, get the right answer in the problem? So plug on in. Please note that that x is touching the 2, so it is being multiplied. So 2 times a negative 4 plus 12 equals a positive 4. And from there, let's keep on going and simplify. So we have 2 times a negative 4, which you could type this whole thing here into the calculator, but I'm going to do PEMDAS. This gives me negative 8. A -8 plus a +12 gives me 4. Did we get what we were supposed to? Did we get a truth statement? When we plug it in, did we get the number 4? Yes, we did. So we know now that we have the right answer already before the next day, before looking in the back of the book. Before I move on, let me remind you, this is called a two-step equation. Solving it requires 2 steps. 1, 2. I need to see those steps on every problem. Don't just make the answer appear. If this was just a solve problem, this is 4 points for just solving this equation. 2, 1 for each step of work, 1 for the answer, 1 for trying. If it says to check, then you add the check and some work on that. It's now a 6-point problem. So read instructions and show the work. Here we go. You're familiar with it. If we ever have any subtraction, we've been saying don't subtract. Add the opposite. Now from there, we find the variable, whatever side it is. If it's over here on our beloved left side, we say awesome and great. If not, don't panic. It's over here. Don't panic. It's the same process. Put your pencil, put your thumb on the 4t. Draw your attention to adding a -7. That's the first thing we need to get rid of. Step 1 is to add. So we're going to add a +7 so that these guys cancel out. Now journey all the way over to the left side of the equal sign and put down a +7. If I were to put a pencil down, or in class I always do this with my magic pen, if we put a big old line here, there should be a +7 on the left side of the equals and a +7 on the right side. That addition property of equality. We did that. Mental math, careful, that's a -8. And what remains on the right side? Everything's canceled. So when we look up here, that +7 has canceled that, adding a -7. So the only thing that remains on the right side is the 4t. So write that on in. Write the 4t down here. That's why we did that. We want to get the 4t by itself. Now that it is, step 2, you either multiply or divide. And you go back to the variable. Since the 4 is touching the t, we're going to divide by the coefficient, the same value, the same number that's in front of the t. So that way they cancel. 4 divided by 4 is 1. Mental math, again, careful, that's a -2. Calculator approved. That is what I need to see every time for a solve. We're going to bypass the check for time's sake. When it looks like this, don't panic. Again, we're just going to go through here and add the opposite. And now distribute. Draw the loop from the 3 to the x to get yourself the 3x plus, remember, this is not just -4. Take 3 times a -4. So that now we're back. No matter what ends up happening, our whole goal is always to get back to this, a 2-step equation. And then from there, get it down to a 1-step equation to solve it. Finding the side with the variable, found it. Remove your focus from the 3x. Cover it up. Draw your attention here. We want to get rid of adding a -12. How do you get rid of adding a -12? Well, you do so by adding a +12. Because we want these guys to cancel. If you add a +12 to the left side, do it to the right side as well. What's left on the left side? 3x. 9 plus 12 gives you 21. And again, since that 3 is touching the x and it's timesing, get rid of that. That's what we talked about in our previous lesson. Just dividing it on out. X equals 7. Kind of a glimpse at a multi-step equation that you can see in our standard, where we're going to have these multi-step problems. Whether they have fractions or decimals or integers, they'll have positive and negative numbers with them. So we need to be ready to solve multi-step problems. This one looks different. No, don't panic. Play the game. Find the variable. Aha, it's on this side. Ignore it. So pretend like it's not there. Cover it up. I see adding 5. That's interesting. Let's get rid of adding 5 to start with. So how to get rid of adding a positive 5? Well, yes, you add a negative 5 to both sides. These guys cancel. Now, this out front is a negative sign. I'm going to give that to the number. The whole fraction itself is negative, but to save us a step of work, assign it to that 3. So that's what's left on the left side. M divided by negative 3 equals, now again, watch your signs here when you're adding those up. If it's mental math, that's a negative, so you want to make sure you catch that. If you're typing it into your calculator, don't miss that. Now to solve, again, find the variable. Here it is. What's happening between the M and that 3? What's this line here mean? It means dividing, yes. So since we're dividing, how do we get rid of division? What's the inverse? The thing to get rid of division is to multiply. Since we're dividing by a negative 3, we're going to multiply both sides by a negative 3. Like we covered in the previous lesson. These 3's cancel. That's our whole goal. We're left with M on the left side equals a negative 12. You could check it. You could plug it on in and see what you get. Mental math. You could use a calculator. You could write it on out. But negative 12, there's your answer. And again, remember, I want to see 1, 2 steps of work and the answer and a point for trying, at least a 4-point problem. Now this one, all right, Mr. Walls, don't panic. If there's any subtraction, switch it first to adding the opposite. Find the variable. Hope it's over here. What if it's over here, Mr. Walls? Then we do the same steps. But since it's on the left side, ignore it. We want that negative z over 4 all by itself. To do that, we got to get rid of adding a negative 9. So step 1 that you and I have, step 1 is to add something. I'm going to add a positive 9 because the negative 9 and the positive 9 cancel. Now notice, again, here's this thing. In front of z, what is that? Yeah, it's a negative, or it's read as the opposite of z, but because it's just there, you can leave it there. You could put a little 1 in front of it if you wanted to, but to save time, I just take and I move that down here. I'm going to give that z, I'm going to put the negative with the 4. One of them is negative, either the top, the numerator, or the bottom. Either one, I'm going to move it back down to the bottom, to the number, because then it saves us a step of work. Z divided by negative 4 equals 3 again over here. Watch your signs, whether you're typing them into the calculator or mental math. And drawing our focus here again, look, a variable. All right, what's happening between the Z and the negative 4? You're right. There's that line. They're dividing, so we need to get rid of division. To get rid of division, we're going to multiply. Again, it's the same number. Everybody say same. Did you say same? Say the word same. We use the same number. So what type of 4 are we dividing by? Since that's a negative 4 down there, multiply both sides. Excuse me. That was interesting. Since we're dividing by a negative 4, we're going to multiply both sides by a negative 4 because we talked how those cancel. You're left with z on the left side equals a negative 12. Again, solving the equations. Doesn't matter what they look like. Find the variable. Oh, phew, it's on our beloved left side. Again, we're talking about, is it on the right side or the left side of the equals? Sometimes you guys say middle because here it is in the middle. You're right. But focus on the side of the equal sign that has the variable. Ignore that 4a. How to get rid of adding a positive 2/5? It's a fraction. Don't panic. To get rid of adding a positive 2/5, we're just going to add a negative 2/5. Notice how I put the fraction underneath the fraction because those guys are like terms. Now journey all the way over to the right side of the equal sign. Make sure it makes it all the way over there to the right side of that equal sign. The negative 2/5. Add it to both sides. Again, using that magic pen, if I put a pencil down, if you drew a line, there needs to be adding a negative 2/5 on both sides. Why do we do that? Well, that's because these guys cancel. We're left with 4a on the left side. And over here, oh no, we got to add fractions. What do we need in order to add fractions? Common denominator, woot woot, we already have that. So leave the bottom number 5, add those two negatives on the top, and it stays negative. Notice we're not done yet, so I would definitely recommend just leaving this guy as that improper fraction. Don't worry about changing him. Just leave him like that for now. And we're going to come over here, and normally, go ahead and pause for a moment, not the video. Put your pencil down because I want you to see this again. Normally, you and I would be very familiar, and we divide this by 4, which is great. And we come over here and divide this by 4, but notice how we've got a fraction up here. So as soon as you see dividing with a fraction, erase it. Just like my magic pen disappeared. We don't divide with fractions. Whether the bottom number is, whether we're dividing by a fraction or there's a fraction there, that's where you have to multiply by the reciprocal or the flip. 4 as a fraction is 4 over 1. So what's the reciprocal of 4 or 4 over 1? It's 1/4. So multiply both sides by 1/4. Why? Because 4 as a fraction is 4 over 1. So those guys cancel. What's left on the left side? The letter A. Great. And now this is where you can just multiply across the top. Tell me it's a negative 8. And across the bottom gives you that 20. Please note, if you can simplify, do so. They're both even, so take a 2 out. If you notice the 4 right away, great. If not, here we go. I got a negative 4 over 10. Hey, those are still both even. Divide them by 2 again. If you don't like fractions, just take the even numbers, cut them in half. Keep cutting them in half as long as they're even. That's where we're going to get down here to negative 2 over 5, not both even. So the final answer is a negative 2/5. You could check that. Not always as easy or fun, but it is possible. Notice that one had fractions. We've seen some integers, decimals. We haven't really practiced, but you can do the same process for solving multi-step. Now, when we talk multi-step, course 3 next year really does a lot with course 3. It does a lot with multi-step equations. So today, we're going to do a little bit of that too, but more so usually this will be for later. So when you see this, don't panic, just say later. Okay, now later, when I say later, I don't mean like stop, pack up, quit the video. No, some people do that in class. No. What we're going to do is, most likely, I'm just going to show you these examples, and you won't see these on your homework today, but we're going to come back and do another day of two-step equations, and we'll show you some more of these. What do we do on these ones? Same as before. If there's any subtraction, don't subtract. Add. What's the opposite of a positive 2y? A negative 2y. And now focus on the side with the variable. Oh, wow, there's a lot of things over here. Okay, right now, is there anything else with a y besides this guy right here? Anything else with the 2y, with the y? No, all right. So then I'm just going to write that guy down. I'm going to write down negative 2y. However, what happens with this positive 3 and positive 4? Those are like terms. We call them constants usually. Add them up, give you that positive 7 equals 9. Notice we've taken something, now we've turned it back into, if you want to call it a normal two-step equation. Here we go. Find the side with the variable. Found it. Ignore the variable itself for a moment. So we want to get rid of this adding 7. Get rid of adding a positive 7 by adding a negative 7 to both sides. Again, when you do that, you're left with a negative 2y equals, watch your signs. When you add two negatives, it stays negative. You borrow money and borrow money. You owe me money still. So then we've got a negative 16. Calculator, put the signs in. We'll show it to you as well. Step 2, get rid of that negative 2. Don't add. Nope, nope, nope. We're not going to get rid of that negative 2 by adding. Because it's touching, we need to divide. And this step is the same step, same number. Dividing by a negative 2, because now the negative 2's are gone. You're left with y equals a positive 8. If there's any subtraction, we say don't subtract. Add the opposite. Find the side with the variable. If it's not our beloved left side, then all right, let's go on the dreaded right side. Oh no, there's two of them. Don't panic. Combine them. Careful. Mental math, calculator both approve, but when you take and add 3/10 m plus a negative 2 8/10 m, when you take 3.3 m plus a negative 2.8 m, that's going to give you a negative 2.5 m. You just combine the like terms. All right. So find the side with the variable. Whoop. Is there any adding on that side? There's not. So like if you covered up your variable, there's nothing else over there. Okay. So come back to the variable, draw your attention there. You're not going to get rid of that by adding. How to get rid of that negative 2.5 since it is touching that m? You're right. We're right. You got to divide. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 2.5. Again, grab a calculator. Grab your Chromebook and pull it out. Grab your phone and use it only as a calculator with the calculator app where you're actually punching numbers in. Don't take a picture of the problem. Type in that 12.5, the 12.5, divided by a negative 2.5. If you need help figuring out the negative key on your calculator, whatever type of device you're using, I'd love to show it to you so that way you can look here and see that we do not have the same signs. But if you want confidence, I can show you on the calculator how to put those in so that you get that negative 5 right away. One last one, don't subtract, add the opposite. I'm going to combine these like terms. Careful with the mental math. That gives us a negative 3x equals 15. Since, again, there's no adding or subtracting, I'm going to focus right here. Get rid of that negative 3 that's touching the x by dividing both sides. Because then the negatives are gone, the x stays. That's all that's left on the left side. X equals negative 5. This is more so what we'll be seeing later. Today's assignment is going to be like these. Now, forgive us as we talk about a cell phone bill, a wonderful math problem. However, you guys, we don't have anything where we have to pay per text anymore and even have data unlimited. But this used to be a real thing, so let's go through it. Notice you have a total bill of $80.50. So I'm going to start there. That's the total bill. That equals everything you had to get paid or charged for. Now, what do you get charged for? You get charged for 50 cents per text and 45 cents for a line access fee. One of those, the 0.50 or the 45, needs a variable. In 1 month, what are you getting charged over and over and over for? What do you get charged repeatedly? Do you get charged per text in this instance, not in your real life? Or do you have to pay this $45 many, many, many times in 1 month to have the phone? No, you're paying the $45 once, and this 50 cents per text message, someone used the letter M, that gets the variable because that's what's happening multiple times, over and over again. But don't forget you got charged $45 in order to have that phone on the phone line, which many of your parents understand and have that phone line fee on their bill. Notice, if it said to write an equation, you have written an equation. This will be at least 1, if not 2 points to write an equation. If it says to do that, do that. Now, it doesn't technically say solve, but when it says how many messages did you send, we're going to solve this equation. Back to our two-step equation. Find the side with the variable. If it's on the wrong side, don't panic. Take a deep breath. Draw your attention to this side. And again, cover up the variable if you need to, or just turn your focus right here. How to get rid of adding a positive 45? Well, we're going to add a negative 45 to both sides. Again, even though it's on the right side, journey all the way over. Be very careful. This is where I can see a mistake, because sometimes when we don't put a pencil or something down here, we'll look in this guy, we accidentally write here. Don't do that. There needs to be there needs to be adding a negative 45 on the left side of the equals and on the right side. Do whatever you need to do to make sure you've got that. Then, again, we did that because these guys cancel. What remains on the right side is that 0.50 m. Notice how those equal signs are staying lined up. Always very helpful in equations, especially when they are multi-step equations. Gives you your $35.50. Solve both sides by dividing by 0.50. It gives you the answer 71 equals m. Make sure to answer that word problem. So 71 texts, 71 messages, that would be a label. So again, on a quiz, you're looking at 2 steps of work, an answer, a label, and a point for trying. This is at least a 5-point problem. As we're looking at doing multi-step problems with fractions, decimals, and integers that are positive and negative, that's what we're doing. We're piling both lessons in together now. Also note down here, especially during word problems, using variables for something unknown and solving. Today, that's what it is. I can solve 2-step equations.